Hello everyone, it's Stuart, your Vice Captain speaking, and thank you for flying with us today. Today's a major milestone for me. It's been 2 years since I've been able to make a tying video because I've not been well enough. But more about that at the end of this video. For now, I'm just pleased to be back, and today I'm going to be tying the Caperer Caddis.
Now we're going to tie this fly with the TMC 900BL. That's a size 12 barbless black hook, perfect for dry flies. Remember to always ping your hook to check that it's tempered. Our tying thread will be a Uni 80 in tan. A little tier's tip for you, remember to always invert your hook when dubbing. It makes it a lot easier to avoid the hook point. The dubbing that we're using is a Nature Spirit Snowshoe Rabbitfoot dubbing in tan. Now this dubbing is very airy. You want it firmly on the dubbing rope, but don't dub it too tightly. You want it to capture a lot of air and to give a lot of buoyancy to the fly. And remember that naturally most caddises have very thick, bulky bodies. And you need to replicate this whilst you're dubbing. Continue dubbing until you've covered around about 2/3 of the hook. Now our next ingredient will be CDC, 4 feathers in tan, and you'll align the tips and then use these to help form the tent shape at the back of the fly and to give the flight additional flotation. And then the third reason is you do always get the odd stray hair, which gives a really nice impression of legs. So make sure you measure the distance to around about the back of the hook. Make sure the feathers are sitting nicely on top, check the length, lock it off, and then just have a quick check and make sure that you're happy with the way that it's going to sit. So I lock it off a couple of times and then quickly use the feature on my rotary vise to check the fly. Yep, that looks good. Now we're going to make the wing out of natural materials, a hen saddle, a soft hackle in tan, but we're going to coat it. We're going to coat it with a Diamond Fine Flex UV resin. This makes it waterproof and just a little bit tougher. Next, measure the length of the wing, the tent, and remove the feather fibres. You can see here that the feather's just a little bit tougher than normal, having been coated with 2 or 3 drops of varnish and then zapped. So having removed those fibres, you want the tent so that you've got about 1/3 of the distance of the wing that you're going to wrap to help form the tent shape. That's too much, so I'm just going to take off a few more fibres, and you want this to run to about the back of the hook. So yep, that's now about right. So form the tent shape with your fingers, and then use a couple of wraps of thread to keep that tent shape permanent. Make sure that it stays on top of the hook, and yes, that looks about right. Have a quick check on both sides that it's sitting okay. You do want to see the body underneath the tent of the wing. Then having got there, let's just lift it up, lock it off a couple of times, and then we can remove the waist. Now I'm just preening the fly here to make sure that the wing's sitting nicely, that there's a bubble of air above it where the CDC is, and there's also a few stragglers. Right, and the next ingredient is some deer hair. I've taken 2 fibres of winter hair and I'm going to mount them with the natural curve of the 2 fibres going upwards. So quickly pinch that into shape about the length of the body, and yes, that's caught it nicely, and it's erected the horns very nicely. Just a few wraps to lock it in, and then cut away the remaining fibres. And now all that remains to do is to dub the head. Caddises have very thick, heavy heads, so again we're going to use the snowshoe rabbit. We're going to invert the fly, and then we're going to make a relatively bulky head using the rabbit foot dubbing in tan. So having dubbed the body, you want a slight conical shape coming down towards the front, and then we're going to put the fly back, lift the horns up, and then just quickly lock off in front. Now this is a down-eyed hook, so I'm just going to quickly tilt the vice up to keep the thread on the hook. It's very, very helpful to make sure that thread doesn't slip off down-eyed hooks as you're doing the whip finish. Now because this is a dry fly, I'm not going to use any varnish. What I am going to do is just put in a couple of locking whip finish wraps and to leave it at that, to leave the fly as light as possible. Just quickly check those horns. I did actually knock them as I put in the first of the two whip finishes, so make sure they're sitting nicely. Yep, that should do the job. And there you have it, the Caperer Caddis. It's really good for around about September on the chalk streams. It's more naturalistic than the original Caperer dry fly, and I certainly recommend this one for your box. You can, if you want, use artificial caddis wings, or indeed you can buy yourself an expensive set of burners like these and actually burn the feathers to shape. But if you choose your feather wisely, you actually don't need to do this at all. It's been 2 years since my last tying video. There's a few people I need to thank that I'm here at all. Firstly, the people at Al Rhine who did 4 operations on my eyes, the people at Physio BFit and Basalt who helped me recover, and the vision specialists who helped me recover my eyesight. Most of all, I need to thank the specialists at Leiden University Medical Centre. They saved my life after 2 strokes and helped address the problem with 6 months of chemotherapy. Without their dedicated work, this video would not exist and I would not be here.